Between 1998 and 2003, 6 people disappeared in coastal villages of Massachusetts, all on moonless nights, all after reports of unexplained lights over the ocean. And police never connected the cases until internal documents revealed they knew from the beginning. 6 villages, separated by up to 50 miles of coastline, populations between 800 and 3,000 inhabitants, fishing communities that have existed for generations. In each of these places, on the nights of October 14, 1998, March 3, 2000, July 22, 2001, November 9, 2001, April 15, 2002, and August 31, 2003, someone disappeared. 6 people, 6 nights, 6 identical reports of luminous phenomena over the sea hours before, and 0 official connection between the cases. This video will show you police department documents that prove authorities knew about the connection between these disappearances. You'll see witness reports that were never made public. And you'll understand why, in 2004, a silent federal order simultaneously archived all 6 cases, without explanation. But here's the problem. 3 bodies were never found. 2 that were found had something in common that the autopsy deliberately omitted. And a 6th person, well, her case is the most disturbing of all. You'll see the evidence. You'll draw your own conclusions, because nobody else is talking about this. Let's start with the first one. Sarah Mitchell, 34 years old, elementary school teacher. Sarah lived in Marblehead, Massachusetts, a port village 20 miles from Boston. Divorced for 2 years, she lived alone in a wooden house 200 yards from the pier. Her students described her as kind, her neighbors as reserved. On Saturday afternoons, Sarah walked along the waterfront. Always the same route: Municipal Pier, North Lighthouse, back along the beach. She carried a journal, a brown-covered notebook where she wrote observations about the sea, about birds, about the sky. October 14, 1998, new moon. At 6:47 p.m., Sarah was last seen by the bait shop owner, James Corrigan. She bought a bottle of water, said she was going to the lighthouse to watch the stars. At 7:30 p.m., 3 fishermen reported orange lights over the ocean. They weren't boat lanterns, they weren't reflections. The lights moved in circular patterns about 1.5 miles from shore and disappeared after 12 minutes. At 9:15 p.m., Sarah's sister called her house. No one answered. Sarah Mitchell was never seen again. Her body was found 11 days later, floating 4 miles north. Cause of death: drowning. Case filed as accident. But wait, Sarah Mitchell's autopsy lists accidental drowning. But here's the first problem. Her journal was never found. Sarah carried that notebook on every walk. Witnesses confirm she had it at the shop at 6:47 p.m. The notebook wasn't with the body, wasn't found on the beach, wasn't registered as evidence. Second problem, Sarah wore a waterproof watch, a gift from her ex-husband. The watch was found on her wrist, working, showing 7:52 p.m. If the watch was waterproof and was working, why did it stop exactly at 7:52? Third problem, the police report mentions superficial laceration on right shoulder. No additional analysis, no detailed photos, filed as contact with rocks during drowning. But Sarah was found in deep water, no rocks nearby. And that's when I found the second case. David Ortega, 41 years old, marine mechanic, disappeared on March 3, 2000, in Gloucester, Massachusetts, 14 miles north of Marblehead. New moon, orange lights over the sea. Body found 9 days later. Cause of death: drowning. But here's where the real problem begins. David wasn't someone who walked the beach at night. His friends confirm he worked 12 hours a day at the shipyard and went straight home. Married, 2 kids, fixed routine. But on the night of March 3rd, at 8:15 p.m., David told his wife he was going to check the boat, a small fishing vessel he kept at the harbor. His wife found it strange because he never did this at night. At 8:40 p.m., orange lights were reported by a group of 7 people at a waterfront restaurant. The lights moved as if they were searching for something. They lasted 15 minutes. David was reported missing at 11:00 p.m. Now comes the part nobody connected. When David's body was found, he had the same laceration on the right shoulder, same location, same depth. Police report? Post-mortem trauma caused by marine fauna. No additional investigation. I found the autopsy reports from both cases. They were done by different medical examiners in different cities 17 months apart, and neither of them mentioned the other case. But the lacerations were identical. At this point, I had 2 cases, same conditions, same lights, same mark on the body. So I searched for more, and I found 4. Wait, If there were 6 disappearances and I found 4 cases with bodies, where are the other 2? Case number 3. Jennifer Hale, 28 years old, freelance photographer, disappeared on July 22, 2001 in Rockport, Massachusetts, lights seen at 9:10 p.m. Last contact, voicemail to her mother at 9:00 p.m. saying she was photographing something incredible in the sea. No body found. Case number 4. Michael Torres, 52 years old, retired Coast Guard. Disappeared on November 9, 2001 in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Lights seen at 7:35 p.m. Michael called emergency services at 7:28 p.m. reporting vessel in distress with emergency lights. When the Coast Guard arrived, there was no vessel. There was no Michael, no body found. Case number 5. Rebecca Nguyen, 23 years old, marine biology student. Disappeared on April 15, 2002 in Ipswich, Massachusetts. Lights seen at 8:50 p.m. Rebecca was collecting water samples for her thesis. Her backpack was found on the beach, equipment intact. Notebook with last entry, anomalous luminescence, unknown origin. No body found. 3 people, 0 bodies. And then came the 6th case, the most disturbing one. Thomas Whitmore, 67 years old, former U.S. Navy officer, disappeared on August 31, 2003 in York Harbor, Maine, the only case outside Massachusetts. Here's what makes this case different. Thomas didn't just disappear, he prepared. 3 weeks earlier, he sent a registered letter to the local newspaper. The letter said, "There is something in the waters of this coast that is not being investigated. I've seen the light 6 times in the last 5 years, always before disappearances. I will document the next event. If something happens to me, publish this letter." The newspaper never published it. August 31, 2003, new moon. At 7 p.m., Thomas set up a video camera on a tripod on the pier, pointed at the sea. At 7:15 p.m., he called his son and said, "They're starting again." At 7:22 p.m., orange lights appeared. At 7:30 p.m., witnesses saw Thomas running toward the lights, filming with a handheld camera. At 7:45 p.m., Thomas Whitmore disappeared. The tripod camera was found on the pier. No memory card. The handheld camera was never found. Thomas's body was found 6 days later. Drowning. Laceration on the right shoulder. But here's the part the police never explained. 3 main theories circulate about these cases. Theory 1. Coordinated suicides or copycat. Argues that depressed people intentionally drowned themselves and the lights were just natural phenomena. Bioluminescence, reflections, that became urban legend. Problem: none of the victims had a history of depression. Michael Torres called emergency services. That's not suicidal behavior, and it doesn't explain the identical lacerations. Theory 2. Serial killer. A killer operating along the coast, luring victims with luminous devices, drones, flares, killing them and staging drownings. Problem: the victims had no common profile. Ages from 23 to 67, men and women, some found miles apart. And it doesn't explain why it stopped in 2003. Theory 3. Government or military cover-up. Military tests with underwater drones or undisclosed technology that accidentally or intentionally caused the deaths. Federal government archived the cases to hide negligence. Problem: there's no direct evidence. But it's the only one that explains the simultaneous archiving of all 6 cases in 2004 and the disappearance of key evidence. Memory card, journals, photos. Which one do you think? But before you answer, you need to see what I found. In 2019, doing research in digitized Coast Guard archives, I found an internal incident report dated October 15, 1998, one day after Sarah Mitchell's disappearance. The document wasn't classified, but it also wasn't indexed, meaning I only found it because I searched for the exact date. The report described autonomous underwater illumination system test conducted on 10/14/1998, 7:15-7:45 p.m., 2 miles off the coast of Marblehead, MA. System experienced containment failure. Authorization for recovery denied. Operation discontinued. Military test. Same date, same time, same location. I searched for similar reports on the other dates. I found 5. 1 for each disappearance. Always containment failure. Always operation discontinued. And in all 6 reports, there was an identical final note. Incident reported to Northern Command. Operational silence protocol activated per Directive 4-7B. Directive 4-7B is a federal order that allows archiving of civilian cases if there's national security risk. This changes everything because they weren't natural phenomena. It wasn't a serial killer. They were military tests that went wrong. and the federal government used its authority to cover up the deaths. None of the 6 cases has been officially reopened. The families of Jennifer Hale, Michael Torres, and Rebecca Nguyen, the 3 without bodies, never received official death certificates. This means that legally they're still missing. No closure, no compensation. Thomas Whitmore's family sued the state of Maine in 2005, demanding access to the camera's memory card. The lawsuit was dismissed for lack of evidence that the card existed, even with witnesses confirming there was a card in the camera. In 2007, an investigative journalist from the Boston Globe tried to do a story connecting the cases. The article was killed before publication. No official explanation. The Coast Guard reports I mentioned? I tried to access them again in 2022. All removed from digital archives. Status: transferred to unspecified physical repository. Why hasn't it been solved? Because someone very powerful doesn't want it to be. 6 people, 6 nights, 6 military tests that failed, and 0 accountability. Now it's your turn. Leave in the comments which theory you believe. Military accident cover-up? Something even more disturbing? Do you think the bodies that were never found are really in the sea? If you know someone from Marblehead, Gloucester, Rockport, Newburyport, Ipswich, or York Harbor who remembers these lights, share this video. Someone out there knows more than they're saying. And if you have a completely different theory, maybe something I didn't consider, comment now. I read them all. Next video. The Silent Protocol. 47 cases FEMA archived without explanation. You won't believe the pattern I discovered. 6 lives, 6 families destroyed, and someone in some federal office decided that was acceptable. The truth is in the archives, and someone needs to find it.